Okay. We are studying, we're up to the sixth chapter of Hilchas Talmud Torah. So for the last week and a half, we've been delving into this concept of Kavod Rav, right? All of the myriad and minute details of how to properly respect your rebbe. So now we're going to say something similar in the new chapter, Perek Vav, that has to do not with your rebbe per se, but with any Talmud Chacham, right? So you meet someone, right? Someone comes to your community, and an impressive Torah scholar comes. So there's a mitzvah. The Rambam says, "Kol Talmud Chacham mitzvah lahadro, v'afal pi she'eino rabo." So everything we've been saying up to date is your personal rebbe, all of the details. But here, this is a general. This is a general mitzvah for every Talmud Chacham, right? You see the signs Tzadik Bala Ir, right? So you got to come and you gotta show your respect. Shenemar, the pasuk says in Kedoshim, Mitnei Seva Takum v'Hadarta Pnei Zaken. This is what we call Hidur. Okay, Hidur means to it means to show respect. Okay, and Zaken, what's a Zaken? So this is a famous Gemara we all know from Kedushin. Zaken is what we call a notarikun for Zeh Shakana Chachma. Okay, that's what a Zaken means. It doesn't mean just an old person, right, who's just old in age, but old in wisdom. So let's take the first aspect of respect, which is the easy one, right, which is standing up when someone comes into the room. So as soon as you see this Talmud Chacham come within 4 amos of you, okay, from that point on until he leaves, you have a chiyuv of standing up. Okay, so now the Rambam, as we know, is going to go in order and go on and on and on about the Talmud Chacham. Okay, so in Halacha Beis, we say Ein omdim mipanav lo b'samerchatz lo b'beis hakise. Another way of showing respect is not being with him in the bathroom or in the bathhouse. Shenamar takum v'hadarta kima sheyesh bahidur. Right, it's standing. On the one hand, like I'm standing in front of him, yeah, but you're also seeing him naked, so that's not cool. So it's got to be a standing up that has an aspect of respect. Okay, so that's one nuance. Here's a second one. Ve'ein balei umanu chayavin la'amod mipnei talmid chachamim b'shasha oskin b'mlachtan shenemar takum v'hadarta. So here's a really interesting one. Right, the Rambam, as we mentioned maybe thousands of times already, is very, very partial to those people in the workforce. And believe it or not, work to the Rambam was so important and sacred that wasting time, right? Yesterday we spoke about a lost art. Today we're going to double down on this concept of a lost art, which is not wasting time at work, right? I saw the statistic, the hundreds of billions with a B of dollars that's wasted each year on people scrolling through Instagram and their 9 to 5 work, right, is off the charts. So here we see the Rambam is so particular. He says you can't even waste that 5 seconds that it takes for you to stand up, right? You're at your workplace, right? You're I don't know, you're doing you're working on your sewing machine, and someone comes down, right? A Talmud Chacham comes, and everybody stands up, and it takes 2 minutes, right, until he leaves the place, until you can't see him anymore. So those 2 minutes that 35 people are going to stop working cumulatively wastes the money of the employer. So you're going to say, yeah, but this is a Talmud Chacham. We got to show him respect. So which one trumps which one? The Rambam says, no. you don't stand up. Because it says takum v'hadarta ma hidur she'ein ba chesron kis. You could respect the Talmud Chacham from today till tomorrow, but you can't cause a loss. Okay, af kima she'ein bo chesron kis. Hidur and kima, right? When you respect him, it can't cost you, and when you stand up, it can't cost somebody. Who's the somebody in this case? Well, the somebody is the employer, right, of the Singer seamstress company. So that is sewing machine company. So that is the point that the Rambam makes. So what if you say, you know what? I see the rabbi coming. I'm going to pretend that I don't see him because I got to stand up and then I got to wait and I'm just too lazy. I'll just pretend I don't see him. So we're very, 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 very careful that people should not think that they could just pretend not to see something. And if you remember, we had this concept by Hashavas Aveda, right? It says Vahalamta, right? You can't pretend not to see something, right? That's a very bad thing. So too over here, you can't pretend that you don't see the Chacham coming in order so that you don't stand up and, right, spend time and you're just lazy and you don't feel like doing it. Shenemar v'yaresa me'elohecha. Ha kol davar shehu maser lalev nemar bo v'yaresa me'elokecha. Right? Because who do you think you're fooling? Yeah, you may fool someone sitting next to you. It's like, okay, well, I guess he didn't see that rabbi. That's why he didn't stand up. But the ultimate right? But the ultimate power that be does know the truth. And this is what Rashi in Kedoshim, I don't know how many times. I know there's a Rashi at the end, V'yaresa me'elokecha, about, let me just think for a second. It escapes me about Losikum Velositor, right? Has one, and Haftolecha Kamocha, right? A lot of the, actually not that one, but a lot of psukim end V'yaresa me'elokecha, meaning we know like whether or not you're being honest or not, right? You can't fool God. Okay, so that's that. Ein roi, we're up to number 3, halacha gimel. Ein roi l'chacham sheyatriach es ha'am v'kaven atzmo lahem kedei sheyamdu. So here's an interesting one, right? You know, it's like the chacham knows that everyone's going to stand up for him. So is it incumbent on the chacham not? You know, he knows that most people are going to adhere to the rule, and he can't just play, oh, I'm modest, right? I'm not going to, no one's going to stand up for me. No, he knows that they're going to stand up for him. So Rambam says it's a really good idea that if there's a lot of people that are going to stand up and make a whole big tumult, he should probably take a different way, so that people won't see him. Right? Take the shortcut, right? Try to avoid people, right? Like the lahavdil, like the paparazzi, right? There it's the opposite. They want everyone to see them. Here, right? Forget the red carpet, just go around the back, right? So that no one sees you, right? Don't make people stand up for you. You know, it's a nice thing. And the Rambam says, I guess historically, that people would take these roundabout routes, right? In order so that the people who see them don't recognize them, right? It's like, right, usually you want to go where everybody knows your name. Right here, you don't want to go where everyone knows your name. So that way, you don't bother people, right? So that, you don't make a whole big tzimis out of it. So that's Gimel. Dalid, Rochev Harehu Kimahalach. So here's an interesting question. We're talking about seeing the Talmud Chacham from a distance walking. What if he is on a donkey? What if he's on a horse? Right? How do we consider that? So we say he's like walking. You stand if someone is riding also. Okay. Here we get to another one. 3 people are going on a highway together, on a journey together. The way it should be is the highest one is in the middle, right? The one with the most knowledge, the bigger Rav, is in the middle. Second is to his right, and the third is to his left. And this is, I think, the way the Olympic gold medal ceremony, maybe that's where they got this from, right? Gold in the middle, to the right is silver, and then to the left is bronze. But so the Olympics may have gotten this from the Rambam, but where did the Rambam get it from? Anyone know? This comes from a famous Gemara in Yuma, Lamed Zayin 37, that discusses when the 3 Malachim came to visit Avraham, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. That is how it worked. You had, I believe, it was Michael was in the middle, and Gabriel was on the right, and Raphael, the bronze medalist, was on the left. So that is the original source of where the Rambam gets this from, and that's how we do it today in the Olympics. Very good. Number 6, Vav, we'll end with this. So he's already repeating himself a little bit from what we said in the beginning of the Perek, that, again, the rebbe, remember when you have to stand for the rebbe, if you see him 2 miles away, you got to stand. Here, we're a little bit less, stringent, and we say, okay, you don't have to stand until he is within 4 amos, 6 feet of you. Pekivin sha'avar yoshev. And once he passes you, you could sit, right? Remember the rebbe, you got to wait until you don't see him. So that's the longest time. That's the longest span of time. Here, when it comes to the Talmud Chacham, as soon as he passes you by, you may sit down. So that's when it comes to a Talmud Chacham. So now we're going to contrast that with other people who demand respect. So we'll start off with the Av Bezdin, okay, Supreme Court Justice, right? You see him. Omim Ilfanav. When do you stand up? Mishayira Merachok. Okay, when you see him from a distance. Molo Eina Ve'enu Yoshev Achayavar Melchor V'Arba Amos. Okay, and once he passes once he's outside of a 4-foot radius of you, you are free to sit. Ra'es HaNasi, how about the Nasi of the generation? Omid Milfanav, Milo Einav, this applies to a president today, hopefully. Omid Milfanav, you stand in front of him, Milo Einav, as soon as you could see him. Ve'enu Yoshev, Ache Yeshev Bimkomo. Okay? You can't sit down until he sits, or he is beyond your vision already. Now the Rambam segues into a different halacha, and when we spoke about this yesterday regarding people, are they allowed to be mochel on their kavod? Right. So this is the famous Gemara in Kedushin, and here the Rambam quotes it, and he says, "V'nasi shemachal akvodo kvodo machal." A nasi is allowed to be mochel and say, You don't have to treat me with this kind of respect. And when the Nasi comes into the room, everybody stands up. And he can't sit, and the people can't sit until the Nasi actually announces, you may be seated. When the Av Bezdin comes in, the way it works is they would create like this wall where there would be 2 lines, right, on the opposite sides. The Omdin, Mikanu Mikan, Achenichnas Vyoshev Bimkomo, and the Av Bezdin would enter kind of in between the people, right, going down the middle of these 2 lines, standing opposite each other, and they have to keep on standing until he sits in his place, until the Av Bezdin sits in his place, and then the other people could go back and sit in their place. Okay, that is that. We will stand. We'll do that also. But now, do you have to stand on Zoom though? That's a good question. Shmuel, what say you? No comment. Okay. I guess we'll leave it at that.
I worked for the Navy for a while. We definitely had to do all that.
Oh, yes. What do they say? At attention, at ease?
Tension on deck.
Right. Okay.
They always say tension instead of attention because they thought